so there we go. So that should be live now. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. We'll see how many people we have join in. I've tried to do some sort of promotion here just briefly, just to give things out and test things out. So we're going to take a look at some stock charts today. I want to just do kind of a run by and test to see how the live streaming platform is working for me. And I'm going to do a lot more technicals here on this channel. So that's what we'll probably try to do. We'll give it a test for maybe about a month or 2 or 3. And if things pan out and work out well, then we'll go ahead and continue doing it. So for the meantime, let's just see how things play out and go from there. So today I want to share with you some stocks that are a little bit more oversold, stocks that are maybe looking to maybe bounce in December. And we're going to look strictly more on the technicals. Typically, I always say when you're looking at the technicals, they go hand in hand with the fundamentals. So stocks that have great technicals also have great fundamentals. Stocks that have great fundamentals also have great technicals. So let's go ahead and take a look at a handful of different ones. I'm not sure how many I'm going to do today. And if you have questions, comments, feel free to reach out and take a look at those. We'll definitely be looking at more specifically just the technicals. And that's kind of what we'll be looking at. Okay, so I got a couple on my list that I want to share with you. The first one is, we'll take a look at Disney. So I'm kind of looking at this one as it's been pulling back. So I always like to start things out with, hey, where has the monthly been? Then I look at the weekly, and then I kind of look at the daily, and then I'll start looking at 130 minutes, 195 minutes, and that kind of thing. So let's first start out with the monthly. You can see the monthly, it's acting fairly weak. And what you'll notice is kind of this rollover effect that's happening in the stock chart. So you're seeing this a lot throughout a lot of the market. And as we start rolling over this way, the break right here is a bit of an issue and a problem. So main critical support is right here, right around 90. So this is fairly significant. However, are we going to get in December a little bit of a bounce like this and then continue rolling over? That's kind of the question, because you do have some significant downward volume, but it doesn't mean you can't bounce a little bit for the time being. So that's kind of what I'm really watching. So I'm looking at Disney right here, and the reason I'm also checking it out is because we're starting to see somewhat, shorts taking some profits or slight nibbling taking place. And that's kind of what's going on, is you're starting to see somewhat of that selling pressure die out. Also past earnings starting to kind of have that move where it's a little bit oversold. And that's what I'm kind of watching for. What are the stocks that are a bit more oversold than they should be? And where is it that I want to start dipping a toe in? It's not to say I'd go full force. It's just starting to dip a toe in there. So Disney is one of those, simply because, it's a strong, powerful company. There's dividends. A lot of value buyers, investors will probably start coming in. I'm not saying they'll come in right now. If you also look at the ABCD pattern, so here's our A to B. B to C is sideways here, and C to D. So it should be, if you look at the A to B, that move should be similar to the C to D move. And we'll be slowly getting into that level there. Okay. All right. So Disney's kind of one of those. The other one I was looking at, IBM, which was, it's really just having a hard time after, Buffett and a lot of other players are getting out of it. I mean, it's an old dog kind of stock. But what you're watching here is, again, if I look at the weekly and the monthly, I mean, you're starting to look at this stock and you're starting to say, look, from a monthly perspective, this thing is getting into these supports at about 110. So check it out. So I've got these levels here where it's coming in. I've got resistance over here at the top, some levels. So as it's coming into this, it's quite possible it may get a little bit of a bounce. Yes, it's weak. Yes, it's not a lover. It's not a stock that, a lot of people love. But it's starting to kind of round out. And the reason I say that is because also if I start looking at the weekly, from a weekly basis, we're starting to get some green candles coming in. And then if you start looking at the daily, you're also starting to see a little bit of consolidation here that's starting to take place. Rather than just going down, it's now starting to create some sideways channel. And a lot of the trades that you'll do that are the difficult trades, those typically are the ones that come out panning really well. And I know a lot of people, they don't love this stock. So, it's one of those that is not loved very much. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I wouldn't mind taking a step into it a little bit. Again, this is for a trade type of concept. It's not for a long investment. It might be just for a trade for it to kind of snap up, and it could just snap up to this 125 or even back to the 132-ish level and then sell back off. So nobody really knows. You're just looking to kind of dip your toe in for a little while and then maybe get out. But it's not like one of those power movers these days. It's not like a hot or fancy stock. Okay, so that's kind of another one that I'd be watching. A third one is kind of Target. This level is kind of like, I'm looking at this right now. It's been this basically, what are we looking at? About that 245 level. If it can hold here, this could be one to pay attention to, because it's typically a normal pullback, right? If we get a snap up to a pullback right here, look at where it comes down to. If I look at the fib levels, we're right there, right around 240. This is the Fibonacci sequence, and we've been bouncing there. If it can hold there, that's the big question, is can it hold this price level? If it can't, we're going to see lower prices, and this could come down and test, obviously, this 225 level if we get market nastiness movement, because we do still have some bearish volume there in play. But here, as I'm looking at this, this is kind of what I'm watching for some support. And if we start rounding this area right here, that would be a good clue and good sign. Because just a month ago or two, you know, we had this nice upward movement, good bullishness, you know, everything was happy, rosy, yeah, and it looked good. But now a bit of an issue and a bit of a problem. Okay, so that's kind of number 3. Let's take a look at another one here, and I'm checking out Snap. Snap is coming right into some support, and I choose this one much more so actually over Facebook from a shorter term perspective, right? Not from maybe a longer term, but from a shorter term perspective, because again, we could just get a shorter term bounce here because it's been oversold from here, from around the $80 price level all the way down to where we are right now. It's almost a 42% pullback. If you check out Facebook, I mean, this thing creating a nasty bearish pattern, and you can see this one's kind of selling off. So here, from a Facebook perspective, again, you got this A to B, B to C, and now this thing is, you got this triangle thing going on right here, where this is starting to look really bad. And now as we start, this level is starting to get broken, and if this level 310 gets broken, that's also going to be a bit of an issue. So that's why I would much rather look at Snap, not so much on Twitter or anything. So look at Twitter as well. It's starting to break down. So these social media stocks aren't looking as good. But with Twitter, one thing I'm noticing is that, you know, we're getting some of this sideways. It's pulling back a bit, then again, a little sideways. So again, this turnaround effect is kind of what I'm watching. Okay, so that's why I take a look at this to see if it can bounce here. And this is the key, is if it cannot hold here, which is right around 47.50, let's say, then you're going to have some more trouble. You know, just get out of it. If it breaks that 46.26, if it breaks the lows of that day low 46.30, so let's say 46.25, if it breaks that, I'd be out. You know, but this is something, again, nibbling some shares. Same thing with like Disney. It's more like nibble. You're nibbling shares. And if these things, you know, break certain levels, then just get out and again, wait for another opportunity. Another one, what do I have on my list here? Zoom, I'm kind of watching this. Some people ask me about it, but I think it's still got a lot of negative things to go for. There's just too much pressure, and the earnings was too recent. So this is a no-go yet, simply because it needs more time after earnings. For example, Disney here, the earnings were way back here. If you look at Zoom, the earnings were just kind of recent. So I wouldn't look at this. I'd more look at something like Zillow, because here we've got Zillow where earnings were here. And now notice we've got some sideways action here. The bearish volume starting to die down. So with this sideways action, this is where we can get a little bit of a turnaround. And looking at more like, here's our monthly. Just check out this, you know, from the highs to where we are over here, you're at 74% pullback. So that's a pretty significant level. And not to mention, if you're really looking at kind of these longer term levels, you've had support and resistance here. So we're kind of getting back into this level. So it could look for a possible turnaround there. That's why I would much prefer something like this. Check out the weekly here, breaking down. Again, huge problem. This is not good. And you know, it's not saying much about that stock right now, but right there, this is kind of what you're looking at, is some potential to bounce on the weekly. And on the daily, you're starting to see a little bit of this kind of sideways traction. So this is where it could turn around. The volume's still not there. You know, still, will it come in? I don't know. But these are the hard trades to do, where let's say normally you like to trade 100 shares. You might say, okay, I'll dip my toe in and I'll do only 10 right now. And then if it starts coming out, you'll put in another 20, and then it keeps moving. Then you go, okay, well, I'll put in my next 70 or so shares, and then you get your full position. So that's kind of the way I would approach it. If you're doing shares, if you're doing option contracts, again, a little bit different. All right, and the last one I want to share with you here is PayPal here. So again, this one's selling off quite a bit. PayPal and Square are both, you know, you look at this Visa, you look at MasterCard. So checking all of these things out, they're all acting weak. So as I look into it, PayPal seems to be the best from an oversold perspective. If I look at this price level of 300, we've got serious issues at resistance over here. You've had some support right there. That's where we gapped. So there's a gap problem. And now as we get into this movement, you can see we've got some more support right around this level that's coming in. So it's possible that this thing could start yielding a turnaround. It's not there yet, but you're starting to see a little bit sideways action right here, just a little bit. And we'll see if that starts to turn. I don't know. But this is kind of one to watch to see if it starts turning. Right now, it's slightly there, but it's not there yet. So it needs a little more time because, again, the earnings and all that hasn't been there. And also just looking at the overall, these types of stocks, the financial sector for software, just do not pan out and play out very well right now. So here, MasterCard, same thing. They're just acting fairly weak. And that's what I would kind of keep an eye on. There's some other stocks out there that's kind of interesting, like Roku, but these things are still selling off quite a bit. I took a shot earlier right here, and that failed for me. So I tried to see if it would bounce here. The volume's still kind of weak, so now it's going to continue going. So I'll wait again to see if this will aim to bounce, and I'll probably re-attempt something around this 170 level and see if we can get another bounce in that level. You know, probably sell some put verticals or, you know, that kind of stuff. Do some diagonals around that range, but for now, it's not there yet. I don't see it even basing too much, a little bit, but anytime we're basing, we're breaking down, right? So we based, we broke down, we're kind of basing again, we broke down. So I thought this would be a more critical support level, but it just hasn't happened or panned out. So anyways, that's kind of what I got for you today. I'm going to try to do more of these reviews and just different stocks maybe throughout this week and maybe next week. So we'll see as we get into the Christmas holidays, just to do some more live things. I know a lot of people have been asking me to do more live events and so forth. And I wanted to do it kind of on a different channel, not to disturb the option stuff that I'm doing on the other TradersFly channel. So stop by. We'll just do more technicals, and you know, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I definitely take a look at a lot of different technicals, from looking at things even more confusing like this with a lot of moving averages and crossovers, and then I look at like Keltner bands and channels here at different levels. So here's kind of my different setups. This is some Bollinger Bands where things overbought, oversold at different ranges. So, you know, everybody has their thing and their different tools of what they like, what they don't like. This is just kind of the run through that I go through. But again, for everybody, it's a little different. Usually when I'm doing kind of teaching, I try to keep it as simple as possible. So I do the candlesticks. It's just a lot easier to see and record with as well. So anyways, thanks for joining me. I'll try to notify you more as I do more of these. It'll probably be around this time frame, lunchtime, afternoon, or it might be nighttime. And we'll keep going, testing new things, and constantly try to improve some of these live things. And if we get more and more people to show up and they enjoy these types of videos, then I'll be sure to continue doing them in the future. But we'll try and do like a 1 to 2 month test and see how that progresses. So thanks again for joining me. Enjoy the rest of the week ahead, and I will see you